Hi, so there are some stories out there that when you start eyeing them, you think, wow, this is fucking amazing. Why have I not been looking at this before? And then there are other stories that when you start eyeing them, you think, what did I just get myself into? Deadman Wonderland is one of those series. This is not a story that you read to your kids at night as they're snuggling in their blankets. This story deals with some serious adult shit. However, that's not to say that other stories don't have some serious adult themes as well. When it comes to what people usually think when manga or anime is brought up, they're usually thinking about the cool kids. They're probably thinking of like Naruto, One Piece, or Dragon Ball Z. And these series do deal with some adult stuff as well. For example, Naruto has a whole arc about the consequences and cyclic nature of hate. One Piece has a whole arc about fighting destiny in order to save your family. And Dragon Ball Z, on numerous occasions, relates the fact that individual sacrifice to save the world is not just a courageous thing to do, it's a noble thing to do, whether or not you're a good guy or not. The cool kids are called the cool kids for a reason. Besides the cool kids, there is also another big faction within manga and anime. And these guys are called the Dark Lords of the Weeb Sphere. I decided to give him that name because I'm going to be honest, I can't really think of anything better, and I also think that it's funny. So these series dive into some serious topics like psychology, philosophy, and spirituality. And these series have such big balls that they are not afraid to make their main character lose if they want to. So when it comes to some popular examples of the Dark Lords, we have Akira, we have Death Note, and we have The Promised Neverland. And now when it comes to Deadman Wonderland, where does it fit in? Well, if it's not obvious, it's with the Dark Lords. It's with the Dark Lords of the Weeb Sphere. Alright, so now that we got all that context completed, let's finally talk about the characters and the story of Deadman Wonderland. So what is Deadman Wonderland? Or rather, what is Deadman Wonderland within the manga called Deadman Wonderland? Deadman Wonderland is a publicly operated prison in Japan that was created in order to obtain revenue from tourists. The reason for this is that in recent history there was an earthquake that sunk 75% of the city of Tokyo. At this prison, criminals participate in attractions for the entertainment of the audience. Now, the prisoners don't have to participate in these attractions, but doing so can be very beneficial. Participating in attractions are a good way to obtain CAS points. And CAS points are basically the currency of the prison, and if you want to get better meals, alcohol, cigarettes, or other fancy stuff, then you gotta pay for it. For the prisoners that are on death row, however, earning CAS points is essential. You see, the prisoners on death row are constantly being injected with poison through their collars, and if they don't consume the antidote every 3 days, then they die. And the way to obtain the antidote is through paying for candy that contains it. So yeah, the prisoners don't actually have to join in these attractions, but if they don't, at the best, their time in prison is going to be crappy, and at the worst, they're going to die. Also, the attractions that you see at this prison are not like the attractions that you see at your typical amusement park. The attractions here are more comparable to what you would have seen in the Roman Colosseum. Although they do have a Ferris wheel. So Deadman Wonderland is not a place that you want to go to. It's dangerous and it's scary, and bad things happen to everyone there. Now that being said, it just so happens that our main character ends up being sent there. Alright, so the first main character of the story is this kid named Gonta. When we're introduced to him, he's pretty much just a normal middle school kid. He's got a friend named Mimi, he's got a friend named Yamakatsu, and his dad steals his fucking ice cream. So yeah, Gonta's pretty much just a normal bro living a normal life. However, all of that changes when this guy appears. This guy is the Wretched Egg, or simply the Red Man. He jumps into Gonta's normal life and kills his friends and the other people in the classroom. And when this tragedy is all over, Gonta is the sole survivor, and he is sentenced to death for the crime and monstrosity that he didn't commit. So, now a prisoner, Gonta is taken to Deadman Wonderland. The next main character we'll take a look at is this girl named Shiro, but first, I need to preference something. Shiro is not naked. I know it looks like it, but she's not. She's wearing a skin-tight outfit that is matching her skin color. In the anime, it's white, and in the manga, it's peach. So again, Shiro is not naked. She is wearing clothes. And now that we got all of that out of the way, who is Shiro? So, Shiro is this girl that Ganta meets at the prison. Ganta is freaking out in his cell because of the terrible things that have been happening to him, and when he expresses that he wants to die, Shiro jumps into his cell and offers to do it for him. She for real tries to stab her bro here. Ganta of course dodges this because he's just being hyperbolic, and after this dangerous encounter, Shiro then tells Ganta that she and he are friends, and we then see a flashback of them as kids. So with the introduction of Shiro, we learn very quickly that she's strange, and I'm not just talking about what she's wearing. Shiro's hair is white, her eyes are ruby red, and her intelligence and personality appear to be that of a child's. She also appears to know who Ganta is, but for some reason, Ganta, despite something from the depths of his memory reaching out, he doesn't remember her at all. So, Shiro is a strange character indeed. So Ganta and Shiro are predominantly the main characters of the story. Most of the plot is pushed forward by them, and most of the plot revolves around them. But besides them though, there are also many other characters. First off, we have this guy called Yu who willingly enters into Deadman Wonderland in order to pay for his sister's freedom. That makes him sound all noble and all, but when it comes to the lives or safety of other people, he doesn't give a shit. Well, at least not at the beginning. In the first chapter, he bumps into Ganta and steals a candy antidote from him. In the third chapter, he tears off a guy's ear to get his earring. In the fourth chapter, he manipulates Ganta into owing him for giving him the candy antidote that he took from him in the first place. And he's also working for Tsunenaga Tamaki. Tamaki represented Ganta as his lawyer during his trial, and then later on it turns out that he's also the promoter of Deadman Wonderland. Tamaki purposely rigged Ganta's trial in order to get him sent to his prison. Now you'd be thinking, Tamaki must have had rigged Ganta's trial in order to get him sent to his prison because of some master plan. When Ganta gets sent to Deadman Wonderland, he meets Shiro, and he must have known this, that it was going to happen, and maybe he's just rigging fate like how he rigged Ganta's trial. Well, actually no. The reason why Tamaki does what he does, from rigging trials to orchestrating deaths, is because this is all a game to him. 10 years ago, we see that Tamaki was a rabid gamer, and when the earthquake happened, he didn't care about the pain that his mother was going through. He only cared about returning to his video game world. However, he couldn't. He learned after this that the earthquake wasn't natural, and in a way to get revenge on the loss of his video game world, and in a way to continue being a hero fighting the Demon King, he devoted the rest of his life researching on what caused the earthquake. This research led him to the truth, and also led him to becoming the promoter/active director of Deadman Wonderland. So, Tamaki doesn't rig the trial because he has a grand plan for Ganta. However, he probably did it so that Ganta wouldn't talk about something that happens to be the secret of the prison. We'll talk more about that later. Next, let's talk about a woman called Makina. So Makina is a foil to Tamaki. While Tamaki is evil, Makina is simply accepting of the idea that reality isn't fair or just. This acceptance allows Makina to do some very cruel things, or even passively accept the orchestration of deaths by Tamaki's hands. However, Makina is not evil. She just wants to maintain order within the prison, and she also wants to do things by the book. She does have a moral compass, although it is skewed. A character that also appears to have a skewed moral compass is Azami. Azami is a fellow prisoner that Ganta meets in the second chapter. She explains to him what cast points are, and she actually gives him some food as a kind gesture. However, when 14-year-old Ganta gets confronted by this buff dude that tells him that if he doesn't laugh when he sees him, he'll kill him, Ganta laughs, and Azami then takes away the food that she gave him. Despite giving in to the bully's commands, Ganta does later on stand up against him, and this leads to Azami considering Ganta to be a friend that she can trust. Alright, so after talking about those characters, we also have the Deadman. You see, Deadman Wonderland wasn't created to house the criminals of Japan. It wasn't created to make revenue, and it wasn't created to aid in the rebuilding of Tokyo. That's just a front. That's just a way for the prison to make some sweet, sweet cash. The real reason why Deadman Wonderland was created was to control and keep inside of it the Deadmen. The Deadmen are people that can manipulate their blood at will. The Red Man is one example of a Deadman, but there are many others. We have our cool bro right here called Senji, or simply Crow. We have Yu's sister Minatsuki. We have this person called Chaplin. We have this old man called Idaki. We have a bro called Naji. We have a gal called Kariko. We have this guy called Toto, and we have even more than that. Alright, so now that I feel like I built a strong support by talking about some of the characters and a little bit about the world itself, let's talk about the story. So the story begins with these colored panels that are here to grab your attention, and they're also here to confuse the fuck out of you. We have Ganta and Shiro playing around as kids, we have this person playing the piano while crying, we have what appears to be a SWAT team confronting the Red Man, we see some of the devastating effects of the Great Tokyo Earthquake, and while all this is going on, we have this sad tune playing. So from here we learn about Deadman Wonderland, we get introduced to Ganta, and then the Red Man shows up. The Red Man then kills Ganta's friends and classmates, and then he takes out this crystal-looking thing that he shoots at Ganta's chest. And this red crystal is actually what turns normal people into deadmen, by the way. So after meeting Yu, Makina, and Shiro, Tamaki decides to orchestrate an accident to kill Ganta, and thanks to his newfound ability to bloodbend, Ganta manages to survive. After this, Ganta meets Azami and he sees Yu again. And it's actually from Yu that Ganta learns about this dog race that he can do in order to win some sweet cast points. You know, some sweet CP. Ganta decides to enter the race, and when he's there, Azami gives him a cold shoulder. And then the bully from before shows up again. So this bully, I'm gonna be honest, he's not gonna be here that long in the story. You don't really need to know his name. The only purpose for him in the story really is to make Ganta grow the fuck up. Like, I can imagine the author being like, man, how am I gonna make this weak 14-year-old kid grow up so that he can become a likable character in my story? Oh, I know. I'll have him get bullied. Man, I did it again. So yeah, the bully shows up, and after telling everyone to lose to him, he notices that Ganta isn't laughing. Ganta begins laughing, and the bully now wants him to further prove his subjecthood. He orders Ganta to hurt Azami, and rather than do this, Ganta finally grows a pair, and he stands up against the bully. So the race finally begins, and tons of people die. Again, this isn't a story that you read to your kids at night when you're putting them to bed by. It's not like Dragon Ball. Wait, is that his nuts and sausage handed out? And again, like how the audience within the Roman Colosseum cheered as slaves were butchered to death, so here too does the audience cheer as these prisoners die. Now in defense of the audience here, they don't think that what they're seeing is reality in front of them. They think that it's all magic and mirrors, that it's just special effects. But as highlighted by this guy right here, even if what they are seeing is reality, many people will still excuse it because it's happening to criminals. Also, because we just looked at this panel, let's unnecessarily talk more about it. So from the looks of it, I think that this guy and this girl are on a date. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think that taking a girl on a date to a prison is the best idea. With that being said though, Ethan and Ela Klein met at a Holocaust museum, so maybe I don't really know what I'm talking about. Alright, so anyway, even though people are dying during this race, Shiro does make reading this experience a little bit more fun. Like, I feel terrible that I'm saying this, but it's true. Shiro is just great comedy relief, and she really just balances out all the terrible things that are happening right now. Like, as the bully and his goons are trying to kill our main bro right here, Shiro is straight up riding a bull, completely oblivious to what's going around her. It's funny, I like it, and I'm not gonna feel bad about saying this. In a story full of some of the most terrible things ever, having a little chuckle in here or there, having a little smile, a little laugh, it just makes reading the experience a little tolerable. You know, maybe this is a commentary on life, like, you know, despite all the bad things happening to you, happening to everyone, like all the time, having a little laugh here and there, having a little chuckle, maybe that's what makes living tolerable. Or maybe it's just good storytelling. I don't know. What do you guys think? So the antics of the race continue, and it turns out that all that comedy relief that Shiro was doing actually had a purpose. She was actually protecting Ganta the entire time. And when we get to the end of the race, our main bro has to make a choice. Does he take his win to save his life, or does he save Shiro? Naturally, our boy is grown up here, and so he decides to save his gal. The race then ends, our boy and gal here eat some anpan together, and it appears that Ganta is one step away from Heaven's Gate. So the first 3 chapters of the series are very important for establishing why Ganta is worth following. He's no longer this squeamish, does whatever someone tells him to do kind of kid anymore. He's matured a bit. Alright, so now that Ganta has become a man, and now that he's finished his trilogy of transformational maturation, it's now that the story was put into overdrive. So remember how I said that the true purpose of the prison is to contain the dead men? Well, guess what? One of those dead men that is contained in the prison is the Red Man. And further, guess what? This thing called the Mother Goose system that was containing him, well, it's failed, and now the Red Man confronts Ganta as the clock strikes 3 p.m. So I like to think of myself as observant, and I just can't help but sometimes feel like my spider sense is going off when I'm seeing something. And when it was in my Spider-Man 2099 issue number 1 review, which by the way is only on BitChute. It's a good video, by the way, you should check it out. But when I was reading that, in one panel I just couldn't get over the number 47, and I just had to figure out what does that mean. And now that I'm reading this series, when I'm looking at this panel and I'm looking at the clock and seeing that it's at 3 o'clock, I can't help but feel like there's something more there. Why does the clock strike at 3 p.m. when the Red Man appears? What is the significance of that? Another question that could be asked is, why doesn't the clock strike at noon? The clock striking at noon is a classic example used in both westerns and other forms of media to signify that shit is about to go down. And guess what? After the clock strikes, Gonza and the Red Man fight and our boy shoots out his blood for the second time. So again, I ask, why does the clock strike at 3 p.m. and not noon? So I'm Catholic, but I will admit I'm not the most knowledgeable Catholic in the world. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, and if you quiz me on it, I probably get a lot of basic stuff wrong. So I don't know what the significance of 3 p.m. is in Japan, but doing a simple Google search, I was able to learn that 3 p.m. is the time when Jesus died on the cross. Perhaps the significance of 3 p.m. here in the manga mirrors the loss of hope, the loss of Jesus, who is pretty much the chosen one. And if you look at these panels prior to the striking at 3, we see that Gonza remembering his friends and feeling somewhat hopeful that some normality can still be in his life. And also, if you look at what's going on here too with the involvement of ice cream, if you recall back from before, this connects back to Gonza's normal life, where his dad would steal his ice cream from him. So to me, the striking at 3 appears to signify that this idea that Gonza has, this dream that he has, that his life can somehow return back to normal after all of this, it's a lie. It's not going to happen, and him continuing to think that it can happen is just fooling himself. Especially since after Gonza did his bloodbending, Gonza doing this has alerted Tamaki, and him smiling about it cannot be a good sign. After the fight with the Red Man, our boy is in a hospital bed because of blood loss, and within the ward, Gonza learns that there was another person within the prison that could bloodbend, and in fact, he just happens to be in the G ward. Our boy thinks that this guy must be the Red Man, so he leaves his bed and searches for him. Also, while he's in his pursuit, there's this mecha robo going after him, and it kind of reminds me of the Scorpion robot from Final Fantasy VII. So our boy gets to the hidden G ward, he and his friends get confronted by the Scorpion robot, and it appears that Shiro is about to get laser beamed until the guy that Gonza is looking for, the guy that Gonza believes is the Red Man, shows up and saves the day. Well, not really though. He stops the robot, but that's just so that he and our boy can fight uninterrupted. It's here that he, and even us, the readers, learn that there are many other bloodbenders out there. Senji, or if you want to use his nickname, Crow, is a deadman that can manipulate his blood into sharp blades, and that's freaking awesome. So Gonza and Crow fight, and our boy here shoots Crow directly in the middle of his chest, and the shot actually breaks his sternum and a couple of his ribs. Our boy then comes to learn that Crow is not the Red Man, and he and him get tranked. Yu and Shiro get taken prisoner, Crow gets his wounds looked at, and Gonza gets strapped to a table. He confronts his former false lawyer, and he's told that he will be entering the show called The Carnival Corpse. And if he just manages to keep winning, he'll be able to confront the Red Man, and that's all that Gonza needs to hear to become complicit. Alright, so that ends this part of this retrospective, and we're not even close to halfway through the story, but that's okay. At the very least, it means I'm not rushing through things, and it also means that you guys are going to have a lot more content to look at. So I hope to see you guys again in part 2, where we're going to be seeing Gonza entering his first fight in the Carnival Corpse, as well as meet new bloodbenders. Alright, so if you like this video, I really appreciate if you click that like button, and also, why not check out my other videos? I do some video game stuff, I do some comic book stuff as well, and you might think that they're pretty cool. So with all that taken care of, I'll just end this video with one more point. What's up with stories having one of their main characters shooting things while their bros are whipping out swords? Is anybody else seeing this?